Hello and welcome back to Perspectives. Today's guest is Andrew Daish, a rugby player and coach, having competed at club level all the way up to national level, including representing Sweden with 37 caps to his name. Andrew has played both union and sevens and supports athletes in extracting the most from their performance as a coach. In this episode, we discuss common misconceptions about training and performing at an elite level, the tools and techniques Andrew uses to perform at his optimal, what a max effort should really look like, the psychological aspect of elite performance, and much more. It is clear that Andrew is constantly looking for ways to improve from both a psychological and a physiological aspect, and his ability to test new methods to extract the most from his performance is really, really interesting. There is a lot of knowledge here. The guy is an absolute beast. So, without further ado, Andrew Daish. Andrew Daish, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Can you just tell us a little bit about your background and your sporting career? Who is Andrew Daish?
There we start with the Prince, I think, really. Welsh father, Swedish-based mother. So I didn't really have a choice of what sport I was going to play. Having a Welsh father who played rugby for 28 years, I think he would remind me and tell me how it was in his day. Started playing rugby at 6. Went to a boys' school, played rugby there, and then things started getting a bit more serious. 16, 17, signed for London Welsh, played for Wales under 18s, schools and youth, and then played for Wales under 19s. Picked up a pro contract through university, did that with London Welsh, and then moved up to Birmingham. Played a few years there. Pro, did my teacher training as well at the same time, so busy. Father always pushed the sporting context, mother always pushed the have a backup plan, just in case, especially in the world of rugby. It's quite brutal contract wise and chasing things like that. So and then played semi-pro. Unfortunately, one day the professional dream got killed. The club didn't have any money left, so went and got a real job teaching, and then played semi-pro. And then alongside that, switched allegiance to the well-known rugby nation of Sweden, and played 37 caps, I think it is, for Sweden's 15s, and then played over 10 years of sevens for them, as well as playing invitational sevens, playing around the world as well. So bit of a wide experience. I've been to some very different Eastern European countries with Sweden that I'd never thought to go on holiday to. So it's been an interesting one.
Sounds like there's a few stories there for another day, right?
Yeah, definitely. The likes of going to Moldova for a weekend is the one I'd recommend to them.
So I see you've tried to retire from rugby about 3 times at this point as well, but you seem to keep getting drawn back into it. What?
Yeah, I tried to retire. We had a great 7 years with Old Albanians playing semi-pro in National 1. We were some really good friends. Tried to retire then, and then my very good friend and coach pulled me back in, and then tried to retire again. He pulled me back in. Keep going, and then sort of transferred. Now living in Sweden, transferred to the coaching side. Really developing myself on the coaching element, but sometimes needs must. Have to put the boots back on and strap up and go again. Although pushing 38 now, it's like I think it's the body is definitely saying no, but the brain still thinks I've still got it. So, but no, I don't know. It's always been in your DNA, isn't it? It's something I've loved, something I've done for 30 plus years now, all of my life basically. It's all I really know. So it's lovely it's great to be out there, the boys, but 3-4 days afterwards, it's not fun. Let's put it that way. It takes a lot to get out of bed. Let's put it that way.
Are you just still a walking callus at this point? Is that?
Oh yeah, just held together basically. But it's good. It's good fun. I love chucking it around. I especially like to join in training with the boys. Especially I've got the great opportunity to assistant coach the men's national team now. So giving back to the team. So I love joining in with the boys and saying that the old man still got it, but definitely some of these young lads have still definitely got it more than I have. So
yeah, I know a few people that played, not to the level you played at, but they've broken near enough every bone in their body. So I can't imagine what the injuries are like at your level as well.
Oh yeah, I've got titanium in one shoulder, Kevlar in the other shoulder. Been a nice wrist surgery, numerous. The list is fairly big, but you just keep going and that's where some of the we'll get into a bit later, but some of the stuff about doing it for the team comes into it, of how I trained and how things changed and the mental aspect of it all, really.
Yeah. So playing at that level, do you think there's any sort of common misconceptions that people have when it comes to like being at an elite level of sport?
I think there's many misconceptions. I think people from the outside definitely believe that you have the ability to be 100% every time. I think they are obviously, if they're paid to watch you, they obviously have a perspective that you are the best, you will be the best, you will give everything. And I think that mindset drips into the team as well about giving everything. Obviously, you do it for your team, you do it for the shirt, the greater, the higher power, because that's what it's instilled in you to give everything you've got. And sometimes giving everything you've got is actually more than what you actually have. So the ability to keep going through pain, through not knowing where you are, the concussions, the injuries and things like that is actually detrimental. But at the time, you obviously don't see that. You just see it's either win or lose, basically. I'll do this for the team.
I've seen rugby's a bit of what has been known as a gentleman's sport, as to call it a bit of an older fashioned term, maybe not so relevant now, but what's it taught you other than the physical elements as well? Because I've heard it's quite a respectful game. I'm not a huge rugby follower myself, just because I didn't really get into it. I was more down the football route when I was at school. Yeah. But I played 2 games at college and never again. Broke myself.
Yeah, it's definitely I've made friends all around the world, and it's like friends that you have got memories and stories with, and you shared on-field battles with, and as friends I played against who you'd hate each other for 80 minutes, but then it's like you're back to friends afterwards. Like you got the pre-game chat, like catch up, and then it's do the job, different shirt, different obviously want to beat each other, and then it's back to being friends again. So it's definitely taught the element of male bond you can have, and the bond we have with each other, that the respect I think as well comes with it, that I will run into you as hard as I can, and I know you will run to me as hard as you can, but come the final whistle, like that's done and dusted, and now we move on straight away.
I think that's the nice thing about sport, is it the element of respect that you see in different sports. And you played rugby perhaps being the most prevalent in terms of being respectful for the referee and things like that. To first of sir and more madam in the case.
Yeah, sir and madam, and definitely there is an element of that appealing, that desire, that football-esque, if I could call it that, like that crowding, that opinionated stuff coming in. But there is obviously, you just want to win, and you will do whatever you can to win. And if you think something's unfair against you, obviously you will appeal it or say something about it. It's just, I think it's a natural human instinct to fight your cause. I just think it's becoming a bit more prevalent in rugby at the moment, and I've definitely noticed this year as a coach, I've had to try and change my thinking on it. Like me shouting out something isn't going to change the referee's opinion. It's not going to change the decision. So just have to work with the hand you're dealt with, basically. And if something goes against you, it goes against you. There's nothing I can do on the side of the pitch now. So I'd say my mentality as a coach has definitely changed towards those sort of things.
Yeah, I suppose it's quite an easy trap to get sort of fallen into, really, with your opinions and stuff being on the sideline. You see it with youngsters coming up and parents shouting at sidelines in different sports as well. But you realise it doesn't, as you said, it doesn't make a difference. If anything, it can kind of go against and just annoy people at the end of the day, doesn't it? You don't want to do that. So.
the sport is emotion in the end. It's highs and lows, and things are going against you and for you. And obviously, everyone has an opinion, but that's not going to change. It's not going to change the person in the middle who's got the whistle and the controller of time and the law and enforcing the law. So, like, it's not being emotionless. It's just not using the emotions in the right way for me now.
Yeah. So I've been following your account for a number of years. I think I got into it from, I think it might have been Andrew Tracy or something along those. Do you find?
Yeah, I worked with him.
Yeah.
I coached him a little bit for his one of his competitions, the Rainhill trials. So.
Yeah. So I followed him for a number of years and saw your account through that. It's going back a few years now. And I've always been really interested in how you combine fitness and the mindset element and also your approaches to training. So I've had a couple of different people on, all with very different approaches to how they train, with obviously different goals in mind, different specifics. In terms of your approach to training, you talk about using techniques like no data and nasal breathing and things like that. So can you just talk us through some of the approaches that you might use and how it came about using those approaches?
Yeah, I think definitely the approach came from having that athletic mindset of 100% button is the only button you have. You push it and you go and you go and you go until you can't either A, go any further, or B, you're told to not go any further. And that comes from a sporting element of like the rugby nature of you just keep going, you just keep going. You might be dead on the bottom of the floor and you've still got time to go. And you've got to get up because your friend's going to get up for you. So that's where the training element came from it really. Like I realized I couldn't keep training like that. And it wasn't training, I was testing. Like I'd been in an environment where you test, like we have Olympic testing and because sevens is now an Olympic sport. So we obviously have support from the Olympic Committee and they want to know results. They want to know how high, how fast, how quick, how you can do everything. So then they can implement their training plan and test again. But the problem I was having, I was testing every day. Every day was a test. Every day I was pushing the limits. How fast, how much, how many could I do? And that came to testing twice a day because once a day wasn't good enough. And it was like I kept testing and testing and testing. And the problem with testing is what do you do when you test a new car safety? You're designed to brake. And I kept braking. But then as soon as I could test again, I would test again. So it came to the point where I needed to change something. And I was working with Richard and Julian when they were together at StrongFit. We were discussing things and talking about testing. And then this conversation of testing versus training came across of what is the difference? Because we train to test, not test every day. And that's what you see in the CrossFit world. And that's sort of the element of CrossFit is to push, push, push. But for the average person who might have a job, family, other demands, testing isn't the best thing for someone. And then you think, put an athletic mind or athlete mindset on it, you are going to ramp it through the roof. So actually the no data came away from taking away the aspect of a screen telling me how good I was. Because when it comes to rugby, if I'm playing 15s, I know the referee will start the game. I know the referee will stop the game for half time, start the game again after half time and full time. And yeah, I might have a scoreboard ticking away, but is that scoreboard in time with the referee's watch? There's no other data I'm getting there and then in the game telling me how hard I'm working. And so that sort of mindset of actually, it's up to me how hard I want to work came across. And that's how then I sort of transferred it to the no data, taking away the screens on the machines, for example, taking away time and just working until I was good. And that, it took 2 to 3 years probably to really understand it, because you always want to know. We live in this world where data is so available. Like if you take it back to when we were probably the first era of the internet coming around for households, you'd have to, and trying to get information, you'd have to wait for the dial-up to dial up. You'd have to hope that your mum's not on the phone line or someone else is not calling. You'd have to then wait for the page to load, and you knew it's going to take ages to load. And then you'd hope you find on the right page. Or the other one is like the library aspect. You want to find information out, you'd have to walk to the library, get a library card, hope the book's in, read the book, take the book back to get another book. we're such used to training now of data, feeding it in all the time. We all have, I'd love to know how many people have Apple Watches or Garmin's and stuff like that and live and die by it. But actually, I always use it. The first, I think it's 1977, the first polar heart rate monitor was ever invented. Like I think the first Olympics was 1896. So there was a few more years before we actually had data in such a sporting context and such a available, ready context for everyone. So it was just a way I just took away the data to try and actually focus on me and focus on I am good enough. I can work hard enough for me. And if that was 5 minutes, that's 5 minutes. There's nothing wrong with working out for 5 minutes. I could achieve a lot in 5 minutes if I really wanted to blast myself and end myself. But sometimes you just want to go and enjoy training. I think I definitely lost the enjoyment for training because it became a job.
Yeah, I had one of those whip straps for a while, and
I love those.
It's just, I tried it for just on the trial thing, and really cool. Just the amount of metrics you can get from it. But then I came to a point where I was coming to renew it, and I was like, I all this data, and I don't really know what I'm doing with it. I don't really know how to use it. So I thought for me, it was a bit of a realization that it's cool to know what you're doing, but I suppose it depends what level you're performing at and things like that. And then it becomes a game of sort of margins, really, when you're looking at just eking the most out of your performance when you start getting to, the elite level stuff. But for the average layperson, like myself, it's almost a bit too much data. And I had this conversation with someone else as well, actually.
Yeah, no, it is. I get the Whoop. I understand what it is. But let's just say you wake up and your Whoop band says you're red. You can't train. I don't know, but let's just say it's telling you not to train. But you've woken up and you've got the mindset of, I want to work today. What are you going to believe? Yourself, the person that you are in tune with and you know your body, and if your body's feeling great, or this very, I don't know what algorithm, I would assume it's one algorithm for the whole of the Whoop users, or unless it's learning from you. And it's telling you shouldn't train, you shouldn't do anything today. Well, what are you going to believe? And this is the issue like I have with this sort of information, is that what is true? What are you going to believe? You as yourself? We've lost this human aspect. We've lost this human feeling. I know when I'm good to train. I know when I'm not good to train. I know I wake up and I'm thinking, I probably should. Or I'm not really in the mood to go do this element of training. I fancy doing this instead. Like we've lost the human touch to want to train for ourselves. And what if you wake up in the opposite way? You feel like you are beaten up and you just don't want to do anything. But that Whoop band telling you green, let's go. And you're like, well, surely I'm just gonna hit a double net. Like I'm just gonna hit a wall then, because it's telling me, what do I believe? And now we've got this mental aspect coming into it. We're arguing. Am I arguing with a Whoop band or am I arguing with my head? Which one's the right one? And for, like you said, for the everyday person who is sold on the Whoop band or the whatever algorithm, what is the date? What does HRV mean to you? Like, are you sure this sleep has tracked you properly? Like, are you this? Like, why? We've lost this human touch to go, I'm tired. Like, it's good. I can have a day off. It's good. I'm like, life goes on. Why not go do something else? Why not go and do something else enjoyable? Get out, be human, go and move instead of having to smash myself in the gym because my Whoop band says I'm green when I actually feel like, no, I'm not good today.
Yeah, that's very true. I was talking with the triathlete I was mentioning earlier about RPE, the RPE scale, and we were talking about the use of data as well, actually in reference to some of the work you were doing previously. And so I explained how you use it and how you use it just based on your time you've got in the match and things like that, no scoreboard. And she was saying that's very true. Even when she's training or when she's running or doing whatever part of her triathlon she's at a particular stage of the race, she said she may check it like maybe once a kilometre, but she also says she does a lot of sessions based off her RPE as well. So she does use the data in terms of the zone training and things like that. But there's also times where that RPE scale where only you can tell how you feel on the day. And if there's days where she's meant to be doing a session where it's go a bit harder and she just doesn't feel recovered enough, she says she's got the ability to just take step back. No, actually, if I push hard, I am going to increase the chance of injuring myself at this point. So it's probably about having an awareness of yourself and being a bit more in tune rather than just relying on an abundance of information. Because there is just so much data out there now. There's so much information. There's so many studies, so many bad studies, which is another aspect to worry about as well, where you just have so much information thrown at you. Social media, there's loads of information thrown at you. You've got so-called experts who have got the best method for you, and it's just sometimes too much. It's just easier to switch off, isn't it?
Yeah, like I like the RPE, but you need to expose someone to what a 10 is.
Yeah, subjective, isn't it?
Like it's subjective. Like my RPE 10 could be very different to someone else's RPE 10 because I have the ability to, or physically and mentally withstand more, if that makes sense, compared to someone, I don't know, a 50-year-old guy who's getting back into training. Like, so you have to expose someone to truly show them what RPE 10 is, because, or I sometimes use the Borg scale going up to 20 because it's a bit more freedom within it as well. But like, put you on some repeated Wingate intervals, so 30 seconds with max power output with 7.5% of your body weight dropped on it, and how you can go. Like, repeated ones, yeah, the first one's probably like 18 out of 20. Number 2 is definitely 20 out of 20. And if it was possible, number 3 is probably 22 out of 20. But that's true. Like, if it's not taking you 4 hours to recover from at maximal effort or plus, then that's a true test. If you can do, say you do, I hit RPE 10, we'll go back to RPE, but if you say I can do RPE 10, and then you're 30 minutes later, you're like, let's go again. No, you cheated yourself. And that's the honesty and the truthfulness you need with yourself. Right? And that's where it comes down to some people might disagree with this and say, no, but we live in a scientific world. Yeah, we live in a scientific world, but we've lost the human element to understanding myself and understanding what I am and who I am and what I can achieve. And this muscle doesn't work and this hurts and this doesn't hurt. And then the whole mentality of quitting, actually, like we fear failure, but actually we're happy to quit. Like, I'd much rather fail and learn from it. Your failure is a learning lesson. So, but we've lost all of that because we just rely on an algorithm or something else to tell me how I should feel, and some fancy data chart, which the majority of people don't actually understand what it is. They just think, oh, look, it looks pretty, but what does it mean? That we've lost the meaning of training now, I think. Yeah,
I think that you touched on fear as well. I think that's probably one of the main reasons why people don't go to RPE 10 as well. It's just because it's an unknown, really, isn't it? I can push myself until it hurts, but there's also, it's like a level beyond working hard, isn't it? Where I can comfortably say I've never been to an RPE 10. I don't think I've been like working hard and tasting that sort of, like, you're sucking on a battery, tasting blood as you're like getting to that level. But I don't know, I'd say that's probably the closest I got to an RPE 10. But again, it's like, how do you measure it, I suppose?
Yeah, but how do you measure it? Like, if there is I would probably say the best way to measure it, obviously you got that iron blood taste in your mouth. That's a indicator we're getting very close to it. But I think the easiest thing is if I was to either offer you billions and billions of pounds or hold a gun to your head and say, do that again, and you said no, I'd say that's probably very close to RPE 10. Well, probably is RPE 10. But the fact that people say, I pushed really hard, I went to my limit, and then you jump on and do another thing, like, welcome to World CrossFit, I pushed really hard, and then went to another thing. It's like, no, you don't understand. And that might be controversial. People might not like what I'm saying, but I think it's probably pretty real and honest, what I'm saying. I think people maybe find what I say is controversial in this sort of aspect of training because it's maybe truthful that you don't understand.
Yeah, I've got a few CrossFit fans on here, so we're just trying to kill off half my audience.
I'm trying to kill off half more. I'm more than happy to discuss how to send you to RPE 10 if you like.
Yeah. To be fair, I know a few people listening who probably would be interested in that, to be fair. So
more than happy to expose the world of actual hurt, because I've done fitness testing where I've got to the point of passing out. Like, I'm not, don't give me a medal. I don't need, like, it's not glorifying the passing out element or pushing yourself to the actual limit. But sometimes when there's 12 shirts in a sevens team available and there's 16 of you fighting for shirts, you do what you have to in testing to make sure that you have the best scores. I'm not saying that shouldn't be done every day. And I've learned a very hard lesson, and it's nearly destroyed me in parts, that going there every day is not healthy. And so I'm not advocating that you go and kill yourself every day, but what I'm saying that sometimes it's nice you should have a little test once every week, once every 2 weeks. Go and see where you're at. Go and test yourself. Go and feel what the actual hit, and then go back to training. Then go back to that 70, 80% work, that technique work, that area of weakness you need to improve on. But then sometimes open it up and enjoy it. Like, embrace the RPE 10, because yes, it hurts at the time, but afterwards it's still hurting. But like, there's that element of, yeah, I've got it. And that's what we miss now. We miss that pride of, yeah, I can go there. I can push that. I can do that. And actually, that's the reward. It's the investment and reward of training, of improvement. Like, people invest all this time, but we are never happy with the reward. You always want to, you see it all the time on social media. Like, there's never that embracing of the reward. Like, yeah, I won. Look at Jack Grealish. How much did he love the reward after all that time of investment of the Champions League? I think he was on the beers for 3 days, 4 days.
Yeah.
But like, that's enjoying the reward. I'm not saying you have to go on the beers for 4 days after doing a minute max cow on an assault bike, but I'm saying, like, invest, like, embrace the reward. Be happy, be proud of yourself, like, love yourself for the reward, because you're the one who's invested in the time into it.
Yeah, definitely. I think CrossFit, I mean, going back to the CrossFit element, I think there is, my other half does CrossFit, and she's just come on leaps and bounds in terms of her fitness level. So I think there's merits to using it. Again, it depends what your goal is, I suppose, in terms of general fitness, or you've got something specific you're working towards. So would you say, even if you're just looking to push the limit, every so often that testing element comes in, but if you're quite happy just going in, enjoying the workouts and carrying on, then that testing element's probably not something you need to do?
Yeah, for sure. I'm not shunning CrossFit at all. Like, I've done CrossFit quite a few times. I've been around the world, done it. I've done my qualifications, etc., to coach and things like that. I'm not shunning it. I think it's an amazing what it's done to introducing fitness to the world, because it has got millions of people touching equipment, moving better, wanting to improve, and like, it's been an amazing thing for it. Yes, it has its downsides. Like, you can open a gym after a 2-day training course. Like, my years of studying and background and investment, obviously that's the one side of it. But no, for the everyday person who just wants to go and get sweaty, get fit, just look after their lifestyle so that they're older, when their older self needs to get off the floor or pick up the grandkids, or stops to try and stop themselves falling over and things like that. And of course, like, go and enjoy it, go and embrace the community, embrace the events, do the things. But there has to be a realization that that's what you're there for. And if you're happy with that, you're happy with that. But the thing with CrossFit for me is that some people take it too far. They don these shirts that say athlete on them. For me, an athlete is someone who's paid to do what they do. I was an athlete. I was paid to play rugby. That was my job. These people are paying to do fitness. So I'm paying to enter this comp to get a t-shirt that says athlete on me. So therefore, I'm now the same level as Matt Fraser, for example, where you're not. That's the thing. And people have now done the approach that I am Matt Fraser, who paid to train. He trained twice, 3 times a day. He recovered. That's all he did. It was 100% his job. But yet you've got to go, you've got hours of training. Let's say you train in the morning. You don't hit the lift that you should hit. You don't hit the 82.5% that you should do that day because you've had a rubbish sleep. You had stress from the day before, and now you're even more stressed. And now we've gone from, I couldn't even get close to my 82.5% that day. And now I've got to go to work, and now I'm late to work because I was trying to push the limit. And now And then we have this abundance of just stress rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling over and over and over. And it's going to get to another breaking point. So now physically I'm breaking because I'm not prepared, I'm not ready to go. Now mentally I'm breaking because I'm not getting what I want from my training. And then I'm going to go and do a local comp for 2 days. And the amount of people I see who go, it's the classic, do the open on a Friday, I need to redo it on the Monday. It's just like, well, you go and do a comp on a Saturday, Sunday, and then you're going back to training on Monday. Like, you wouldn't see Matt Fraser after the CrossFit Games go back to training the day after. So, and that's his job. And then you throw everything else on top. It's just a crushing aspect. I love what CrossFit did for getting people, but people got to realize that they are them and not aspire. Obviously, everyone has role models. We can't aspire to be the role model. Maybe use elements of that, but you've got to be your human self.
Yeah. Okay. So someone who's wanting to perhaps do this testing element you referred to before, what would a good session be just to really push limit and see where you're at?
You could easily just, a simple one, jump on the assault bike and 1 minute max calories.
Just simple. 60 seconds, go as hard as you can.
60 seconds, no pacing. Like, it's not a pacing event. We're not saving it to the end. Like, you go out the gun. You don't see Usain Bolt pacing the first 20 meters. This is another thing. I said to someone, like, oh, what should I do for testing? I was like, assault bike, 1 minute, let's go. Like, well, what pace should I start at? Well, maximum. Well, what's maximum? Well, I don't know. You tell me what maximum. My maximum could be over 100 RPM for the first 8 seconds. Like, I can give you my numbers. It's irrelevant to you. I've got different fitness ability. I've got different strength ability. I've got different power ability. I can last longer in ATP PCs. Like, we can go into it, all the depths of the science if you want. But actually, your 1 minute is very different to my 1 minute. All I'm going to say is, your 1 minute, if you're not falling off the bike at 62 seconds or finding a bucket to spew in, then you haven't found maximum. Like, I've got so many like different versions of it to go, but your 1 minute should be brutal. 500 meter row for time. Like, disgusting. If you are not having someone unstrap your feet, then like, you're not working. 400 meter run. All of those around 60 seconds to 90 seconds, 2 minute max work. Like a friend of mine once gave me one called the Dirty 30. So 30 calories on the bike, 30 calories on the rower, 30 burpees. Like, under 5 minutes.
They sound, so that's the thing with these workouts. They always sound, I mean, those ones sound brutal, but like, sometimes I see different like circuit workouts and ones where you just go, oh, it's only 30 seconds. Oh, it's quite short. But then they look okay on paper, but then you come to actually do them and they're just horrible. Yeah,
the best way to describe it is, let's just say you didn't see the clock and let's just say we're doing 60 seconds of the top bike, just because I love it. And you didn't see the clock and someone said to you, 30 seconds left. If your heart doesn't sink and your brain doesn't go expletive, that was only 30 seconds, then we're in the right place. Like, I don't want to know. I don't want to look at that screen. I just want someone to tell me. I just want to hear that machine go beep and tell me when 60 seconds is over. If you tell me 30 seconds left, I'm just crying. Definitely crying inside. Probably going to start crying on the outside.
That's horrible when you've really pushed in, then it's like, oh, still got 30 seconds. Yeah. Oh, we're doing it around. Oh, we're halfway there. Halfway there.
Yeah. But that's when you know you're in there, because that's when you know, even on like let's just say you're just training, and you can push training still. Don't get me wrong, you can push, but if my sort of thing of pushing training is that, let's say I finish, and within 1 minute I can get up, or 2 minutes, get up, walk around, and like recover, and actually have the mental clarity to go, that was good, I enjoyed that, or actually that was okay, wasn't there today, and have that honest conversation with yourself. Then, that's how I would judge my training. That's how I would, like, there's that, having that self check-in straight away as soon as we finish training. But there's times when you're like having mental conversations with yourself. Like I worked with Bill Anthony between the years for 2 years, just because every coach needs a coach. And there were sessions he would give me, like push a sled for an hour. Like you have some conversations with yourself there of like, with literally a stopwatch, and I didn't look at it going off after 60 minutes. And it's like, that was worse than 60 seconds on the assault bike, because I'm in my head thinking. So there's so many variations that you can have with training, of check-ins, of testing. It doesn't have to be 60 seconds on the assault bike. You can test your mental resilience or your actual true physical capability of how long can I go.
Have you heard of the 12-hour walk?
I haven't heard of the 12-hour walk.
He's a chap who crossed the Antarctic on his own.
Okay,
yeah. And he was basically competing against this, I think he's an American chap. I believe his name's Ben Collins, I think. I forgot that wrong. But yeah, he's coined this thing called the 12-hour walk. And he was basically competing against this other special forces guy, both doing the same thing, trying to become the first person to do it. So this was carrying all your kit with you. So I think he was pulling a sled, no assistance for the duration of it. And they were kind of neck and neck, one edging, and they could literally see each other, like one edging in front of the other. And he said there was one day he was like, right, I just got to get in front of this guy. So I'm just going to get my head down and go. And it ended up being like 12 hours, and he built up quite a good gap. And eventually he went on to become the first man to do it. But he, off the back of that, he said he learned so much in that time that he's sort of coined this thing called the 12-hour walk. And it's basically you switch off everything. You take your phone for like emergency reasons, but there's an app he's built where it kind of limits contact. So you don't have any music, you don't have anything else. You just literally take yourself for a walk for 12 hours. You can go around the block and sit down for 6 hours and do as much as you can. But the whole purpose is just go out for 12 hours, distraction free, and just basically see what happens. Just see where your mind goes. And he said he does that like once a year maybe, and it really kind of, when he's getting a bit flustered or things are kind of running away from him and he needs a bit of grounding, he kind of goes back to this 12-hour walk where he just goes out with nothing and then just comes back and everything kind of settled in his brain. He's worked some stuff out, but you don't have all the distractions of, oh shit, I need to look at my phone, or I need to listen to music to be able to get through it. I imagine it's pretty tough. I haven't done it yet, but it's something I want to do.
No, it's not something I'd put on my training calendar regularly. But no, but like working with Bill, we've sort of looked at this whole distraction thing and things like that. So, for example, just wearing like the like ear defender plugs, putting them into your session, and actually, we talked about the noise of the breath is the noise of the world, but actually hearing your heartbeat. So I'd jump on the assault bike and I'd do some intervals, or I'll do any sort of type of training. And once you get like rid of that noise of the breath and everything, you just feel your heart pumping for you. You hear it in your ears, and it's just like that. Actually, you come alive from listening to your heart and that self-love, and it gives you clarity to why you're working. It shows that you're working, your heart is working for you. I think there's so much, like I learned from him. He's an amazing guy. Like I learned so much from him about taking the like I can train, actually the reasoning behind it and getting into the real depths of psychology and the love and the care for yourself through training, like the whole soulfulness of it and the whole like just giving yourself that love. And it was amazing. Like we do training with a mask on. You think you can shut your eyes, put a blackout mask on. Like an hour on that we did. I went and visited him in America, and we did an hour of sprints on the Echo bike. No music, just a blackout mask on. You have an hour to work as hard as you want, sprint as many times as you want, recover as many times as you want, as long as you want, and you can't see anything. Like the depths you go to, the thought process. I went to some deep and dark places there of actually realizing how much you have to do on your own to improve yourself. Like you can ask for as much help as you want, but if you're not prepared to do the work yourself, then you're not going to get anywhere. So I learned a lot from him, and I use it. And I think it's taken my training to a whole new level of understanding me, because I would just train, and there was no thought processing, there was no feeling in it. The feeling was, did I destroy myself? Not the feeling of I love myself, or I've worked hard for myself, or I've improved today, or I haven't improved, but I know where I need to improve. That whole actual real depth of thought to it all, training is there. And I still use the earbuds. The mask is something I'm a little bit still tentative, scared of. It brought on a lot of anxiety, a lot of awareness of not feeling safe. I think safety, you have to expose yourself to an unsafe environment to obviously improve, and that's testing. Testing is an unsafe environment because you don't know where you're going to go. You know it's going to hurt, but actually losing one of your senses is quite unnerving. So, but no, I have the mask. Sometimes I feel like I want to use it, but I use the earplugs quite a lot. I quite enjoy the no music, feeling myself, especially for long cardio efforts. At the moment, I'm just spending a bit more time rebuilding the body, and my training at the moment is a bit more kettlebell based, a bit more range of motion, strength in different planes instead of just being linearly strong. And then some long capacity work of just moving and sweating and just focusing, using some nasal breathing just to control my efforts and to make sure that I'm just working to a nice level. But the earplugs, taking away the sound is quite a nice one. Do that for some running as well.
I've heard about listening to like different types of music as well. So I'll get onto you mentioned nasal breathing, so I'll get onto the breathwork thing in a second. But I think it might have been maybe the mindful mover. So I had a guest on the previous episode called the mindful mover, and they've come from like the movement culture background. So like training silly hour. I think he said he was doing like 8 to 10 hours a day of training, like be it like movement, be it dancing, whatever. And I know you've talked on this with the strong fit guys about that fight or flight response and getting into the sort of stress element. So most people, heavy lifting session, heavy rock, heavy metal, whatever, some sort of heavy bass line, something to get you kind of jacked up. But I saw the reverse of it as well, where people have been using classical music, so trying not to get too jacked up, but controlling your lifts and things like that, which I thought was quite interesting. I don't know if there's any science or merit behind it, but I just thought it was quite an interesting point.
No, I find that quite interesting. Like, I did listening to, I don't know how you describe it, but I just know it is house music, but it's like very like chilled house music, long sort of 7-8 minute
like
songs,
lounge sort of.
Yeah, lounge sort of style, and I think that's just a nice flow for me. Sometimes, you want to ramp it up to 180 BPM and have your ears bleeding, and that's cool. Like you do whatever you do. I've listened to some classical music. I've listened to podcasts when they do long stuff. I've listened to you name it, everything else as you go. So obviously music can affect mood, and the music can the beat, the feeling. But no, everyone. I've seen about classical music. I haven't tried classical music; it's not really my thing. But I'm up for it. My training is I'm up for anything and trying anything. So maybe something a bit of that. So
maybe not even classical, just something just a bit more relaxing.
Yeah, like soulful style stuff and things like that. Yeah, like Deezer is quite like a chilled house band. Rufus the Soul I was introduced to by Bill. We did an hour of burpees listening to Rufus the Soul's new album. I only looked at the clock with 2 minutes left to go, which was quite interesting.
Nice. Yeah, I think this one, Active Child's quite good.
Yeah.
I used to do like a handstand course, and she used to have that. It seems really weird to talk about it now, but like handstands have really exploded in popularity with the whole CrossFit stuff. Recently. But yeah, it was when I was at uni. There was literally a course. It was like, oh, that looks cool. I'm going to go on that one. So learn how to handstand. It's quite a good party trick to whip out every now and again.
I'm sure. Yeah. If a few beers too deep and you're upside down, it could.
Oh yeah, I've gone flat on my back before.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So breath work. Talk to me about breath work. You talked about nasal breathing. How are you using that in your training and why?
Yeah, so obviously, like, there's nasal breathing and the breath work whole element has really kicked off. Like, there's so many people doing so many variations, and obviously there is a physiological benefit to it and stuff. I mainly used it as a limiter towards my training, because there's only so much breathing in your nose you can do before you naturally want to gasp for more air through your mouth. It wasn't a physiological thing. I didn't really understand the physiological thing. I just used it as a limiter, basically, to my training, in terms with using it with the no data work, and I just became pretty good at it. There's many experts out there who will tell you about the hemoglobin count and the oxygen amount, and there's obviously lots of books on it and things like that, and there's obviously loads of people doing breath work now. So I'm not here to dive into the physiology of it, but I just used it as a limiter. I used it as an ability to control myself, because you can open your mouth and you can go there, but actually there's only so much you can breathe in your nose before you get this headache up here. Your brain feels like it might explode. Your nose is on fire. So just used it as different elements of style of training, just to change intensity, really. Like, a limiter of intensity is how I used it, really. And then I would use nasal inhale, mouth exhale. Strongfit used it as like a movement limiter as well. I used it more of an intensity limiter. So there's obviously loads to use towards it. And I think it's great to play with. It's great to see how it is. Some people sleep with tape on their mouth, which is not really my thing. I've seen, for example, when I work with Andrew, I've seen him use it as well, and he does a lot of it, like holding water in your mouth as well, as a feedback, I'd call it, to actually, when you want to spit it out, is actually maybe your limit of where you are nasal breathing as well. I'd probably recommend doing that either outside or with a bucket. I'm not sure your gym owner would be too appreciative of you spitting water.
Yeah.
No, it was just a limited sort of thing. There's obviously lots of physiology on it. There's lots of papers on it now. There's lots of people talking about it. I see it a lot on Instagram and social medias of people doing this and stuff like that. Yeah, and it's also there is a nervous system element to it, that fight and flight, like taking yourself to the ability to fight with it before you want to run away from it, before you go for that. Because obviously Julian talked about a lot of StrongFit, like you could happily be walking along in the woods and then you see a bear, and straight away you go to that panic mode, that flight mode, and you start breathing in your mouth and that you aren't present. So I use it as an internal presence metric as well, to try and like, am I breathing in my nose? When do I want to go to my mouth? Do I need to just back it off a little bit? And it's like that, just keeping that presence as I train. So that's what I really used it as.
Yeah, I've used it before based on what I've seen from you. I've tried to do it a few times, like on the rower or like a longer assault bike session. It's going back a few years now anyways, but the feeling I got was very different. I kind of felt a bit more calm, if that makes sense, coming off the bike. Or it's almost like, I suppose that's the limitation element where, and I've done it on runs before as well, where running especially, it's easy to get carried away, and I think it's very difficult to run slowly. I think that's, whereas we're using breathing through your nose, you actually have to force you to run slowly rather than same with swimming, I suppose. Well,
yeah, swimming might be a bit of a interesting one, going underwater.
Breathing.
Yeah.
Nasal breathing underwater.
Yeah, I wouldn't try that. I'd say running's an interesting one, because it is actually some days I was going to go out for a 60-minute run, but that turned into running 10k in 49 minutes. Like, I was going for an easy run, and then something just happens, and you're like, oh well, I'm 5k in, I might as well just carry on, sort of mentality. But no, I'd say it's a limiter of that pace. Like, it allows you to train. It definitely stops you testing. There's no way you could test nasal breathing and do 60 seconds on this assault bike. Like, you're not working. It's a training limiter, I'd call it. I'd say it's going to stop you falling off the training cliff and into the testing water. So yeah, and that it is a calming experience. It is the fact of, like, I did 60 minutes on the assault bike the other day, just pure nasal breathing. Like, I was sweating. I worked. I had the screen covered as well. and still banged out 700 calories in the hour sort of thing, nasal breathing. But I think I got off, sprayed and cleaned the assault bike, and then put it back and went for a shower. Like, I've worked for 60 minutes. Like, it's that whole element of you can train, and you can train hard, and you can get off and carry on with life. Because in the end, if it's not your job, you got other aspects of your life, or other stresses in your life. And I think that's where nasal breathing has been a really big bonus for me. And I know it's helped. I've talked to a lot of people about it. Actually, how it's helped their life. It's helped their ability to be present. And you can mix your breathing up as well. I have a great session, like I talked about it with Bill, the sprints with, you have a set period of time, let's just say 30 minutes. You have a set period of time, 30 minutes on the clock. You're going to get as many hard, maximal effort sprints in that time. You define hard, you define maximal. I'm not going to tell you what hard and maximal is. That's your definition. This is another training thing I like to use. It's like, you define what your hard and maximal is that day. It doesn't matter what it is. As long as you can look at yourself in the mirror, and this is what I say to people, as long as you can look at yourself in the mirror and say, I worked and I'm proud, then that's good enough. That's all all you need to do. So 30 minutes on the clock, as many sprints, or I always just use the assault bike because I particularly love it. As many efforts as you can do, but when you're doing your recovery, you have to be nasal breathing. You have to be nasal breathing. And I like to use the fact that my recovery efforts will be, I'll take my feet and hands off the bike, then I'll put my feet on just to keep it ticking over. But as soon as my hands touch the handles, that's when I'm ready to go. And there'll be times when I get like twitchy hand, I'm like, am I ready? But then I'll go as hard as I can on that effort. And it's that sort of, I have these training, I don't know how you describe it, like performance metrics to say when I'm ready to go. It's like the first 2 sprints could have maybe 30 seconds between. The last 2 sprints I do could have 4 minutes between. But as soon as that hand goes on, my hands go on the handles of that assault bike, I'm going. And I'm going until my standard drops. And my performance standard is until I feel I cannot give maximal. Like that level might be very different to yours. And that's cool. Like, we are still working at our maximal. We're not working against each other. We're not competing against each other. We could be side by side, but your training, you could be in a great place that day and want to go super hard, and you're smashing them out and like motivating yourself, and you're in the zone and you're loving it. I could do 2 in 30 minutes, and we could still walk away with the same feeling of, yeah, I got what I wanted from today. So
yeah. That's interesting, to be fair. I think the sprint duration one's important as well, because sometimes I think 30 seconds and working at that max, you may be good at a max for like 10, 15 seconds, then it drops right off, and then the final 5 seconds is just like, cycling through porridge effectively.
You're suffering then. You're now punishing yourself. Like, if your sprint is 15 seconds, your sprint's 15 seconds. Be honest with yourself. That's my sprint today. It's not, my sprint isn't 30 seconds. That's 15 seconds of me working and 15 seconds of me suffering. You're not here to suffer. If, like, another example I have, did a seminar for StrongFit, and this guy was like, I need to run 10K, but I don't want to. I was like, well, why do you do it then? He goes, I do it for CrossFit comp. I was like, okay, so when was the last time it was in a CrossFit comp to run 10K? Well, it hasn't been. I was like, okay. And have you signed up for another CrossFit competition? No. So I was like, okay, so you got to run 10K. You don't do it for any reason, and you're suffering for an hour. I was like, okay. So you're suffering for an hour. And he's like, yeah, it hurts for an hour. I was like, perfect. I'm going to punch you in the face for an hour. That's suffering. You're going to suffer for an hour with me punching you in the face for an hour. Same outcome. It's going to hurt. And he was like, this was in front of 30 people as well, so I'm not sure he took it too well. And it came down to the fact he had spent €500 on a Garmin watch, and he had to justify to himself that the reason he had the watch was he was getting money for value for money, for the watch. Didn't enjoy it. Well, why would you do something you don't enjoy? Why'd you wake up aching and sore and like, oh, I don't want to go to the gym, yet you take your sorry ass to the gym and you suffer through an hour of some coach screaming at you, telling you to work harder, faster, keep working in your face, and then you walk away and you hate the gym even more. We are not designed to suffer. We're designed to keep working and enjoy it. Yeah. I don't know if he ran another 10K after that, after I said I'd punch him in the face for an hour. I wasn't going to do it.
You just following along behind him.
I'm more than happy for him to sit there. I'll do it. It's fine. But I don't really want.
You need one of those extendable boxing gloves that you just.
Yeah, I don't really want to run 10K punch him in the face at the same time. Like, it's not effort. But it just shows that we do it for such external things, like the Instagram bonus round. How many times do people actually show their true failings on Instagram, or their true rounds, or there's this amazing 5 rounds plus 1 because I got to film a round for the Instagram reel? Like, just train for you. Like, it's an external gratification, hence the watch, hence the Whoop band, hence the likes on Instagram, hence the people saying well done. Like, where's the internal gratification of, like, yeah, I worked hard for myself today and I enjoyed it. I got the most out of my session.
Yeah, 100%. I've seen some of your posts as well. I remember asking you once, what was it like the objective of your session? And I was like, time, calories, and your response was connection. That was what you were looking for in a particular session.
Yeah.
So talk to me a bit more about what that means.
It just means I'm connecting with myself, like I'm checking in with myself. Reps, calories, time doesn't really mean anything to myself. Like, it's that go until I'm good. We did a lot of work with Bill on this, like, go until I'm good, because I'll go and I'll keep going and I'll keep going, but I will suffer. But actually, like, if I'm good after 30 minutes, I'm good. And actually that connection with you, that checking in with yourself, that understanding yourself, where you are in that moment in time, actually allows you to be the better version of you for yourself and for people around you in your circle. Like, you want to be the best. I want to be the best version of me for my 2 little ones, because they get the best version of me. And that's, if I'm the best version of me for me, then they're going to get the best version of me for them. So it's a case of that connection. And sometimes, yeah, I might just say, like, people, like, I get messages, people saying, oh, what do you do and what was it? It's like, because it was for me. And people sometimes are like, but what did you do? And I know it, like, please see previous message. Like, I'm quite blunt with it.
Yeah. What I'm doing is irrelevant. It's
relevant for me.
Irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. It's irrelevant to you, but relevant for what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. So I train for me. I train to be the best version of me. And that's why this whole, like, deep dive into the psychological side of it all, actually, just, like, sometimes I don't really care about reps, sets. Sometimes I just want to flow. Sometimes I'm enjoying this kettlebell stuff I'm doing at the moment. Like, I've never really used them, and actually learning, and it's challenging because I know how to push. I know how to end my life, but actually I'm learning a new skill of, I never knew how hard a kettlebell windmill was. Like, I have got the mobility of a piece of wood in that rotational thing from just so much sport. And it's like, well, there's something I need to learn on. Like, and I'm enjoying it. Like, I wake up going, I want to go and do something more. Like, I did a session yesterday. I actually used 2 12-kilo kettlebells for the whole session. And I'm feeling achy. I'm feeling like, oh, that muscle's working, and that's not working. And actually, I came away super, like, learning. It was an experience. It was a lesson. I taught myself a lesson. And actually, it worked. I worked hard in a different way. So you can work hard. Doesn't mean you have to go pedal to the metal for the whole hour.
Yeah. I noticed you're quite open about the whole mindset stuff as well. Sort of the connection element, the digging deep and going to the places and pushing yourself to see where you kind of end up. You mentioned the mask training and stuff, which sounds horrific, by the way. I don't think I'll be going out and buying a blackout mask anytime soon. I feel like mental health's really been pushed into the forefront quite recently. There's, especially in corporate places as well, there's a lot of this whole sort of mental first aid training, and sometimes it feels like a bit of a tick box exercise when it comes to sort of corporate stuff. And then you've also got the other side of it, which is like the social media influencers who are sort of being raw and authentic, where they're, there was quite a funny clip I saw on Instagram actually of someone, they were taking the piss out of it basically. Just they'd set up a tripod and they were like, this is me, something happened or whatever, and then they hit record and then pretend cry and then like stop and they're like checking to see if they got the right clip. And so it's obviously you've got to take it with a pinch of salt, social media stuff as well. But have you seen, especially maybe in your surroundings and like the game rugby, for example, have you seen like a beneficial sort of shift in attitude towards the mental health sort of aspect and being a bit more open and honest about that sort of stuff?
Yeah, for sure. I think we live in a world now where, for example, I think suicide is one of the biggest killers of young men. And I think that, like I say to my players, like, I don't care that you have to put on an attitude and a front. Like, if you aren't there, if life is tough, right, come and talk. I'm very open about like talking, because I wasn't open about talking for many, many years for my own reasons. And like, there's young men out there who are alone, who fear this judgment of not being able to talk. And it's scary. It's scary because you have to be this macho man, and sometimes you have to be that person. Sometimes, like for example, in the gym, there's that 1 rep max day, and you want to go and display your biggest, highest amount of testosterone, your true strength, your caveman ability, your macho, whatever you want to call it. But there's times when it's like deep and dark, and you just want to talk about something, or you're not feeling yourself, or you're not feeling like you want to feel. And I think it's important, especially in the world of rugby, where you have to put this macho side on. You're going to this basically glorified sport warfare. You're going into battle. I think there's a lot gone. There's a lot of time that actually people need to realize that the Instagram, the social media, mental health stuff isn't where it should be. Like you said about that, taking the mick out of that person, pretending. It's just like, I think if you are really struggling, like, you're not the only one. And I know people say that all the time, but you're not the only one. Like, you think you're the only one, trust me. Like, I've thought that process, like, I'm the only one struggling. I can't show emotion. It's not the right place to show emotion. I'm a man, I shouldn't show emotion. Yet, no, when you do show emotion, it actually shows you really who is there for you and who wants to be there for you. And I think we should continue to promote it and advocate talking. I think I sometimes talk a lot and I will just spill it all out, and like, when you actually just get it all out, it's the relievement, the weight it feels off your shoulders is incredible. It's the highest of highs like I probably could have, of being able to just go, this is how I feel, get it all out there. And actually, like, sometimes you just need someone to listen. This is a big thing I'm focusing at the moment, is like, I just listen to people. I'm not going to tell you my story. I'm not going to tell you should feel like this. I'm actively just listening to how you feel. There's so much stuff I read about now about active listening and understanding and working with people. Just listening. Just listen. Just, the person doesn't want an opinion. I don't want an opinion if I'm talking. Like, if I'm saying how I feel, this is how I feel. I don't need you to tell me it will be okay.
Two ears, one mouth for a reason, right?
Yeah, that classic saying, like, yeah, one mouth. Just listen. Like, it's one of the greatest skills, I feel. Listening is one of the greatest skills that people have lost, because it's not a competition. Like, my feelings don't need to be top trumped by your feelings of previous times or what you did. And I think this is where, like, the best people are around. Like, I was at a point where, I reached out, and Bill, who is a trained psychologist, like, and coach and former special soldier and all this sort of stuff he just listened, and then he said, do something like this. And like, I used things that are cathartic, which I still use now, and from which I learned from him, which is more than the hours of, I've done many types of different therapy. I'm not ashamed of it, to do it. But actually, sometimes you need to find that one person who's going to listen, who's then going to say, have you thought about trying this? That's all I need. Like, and then you go and try that. And then, did that work? No. Did that work? Yes. Okay, then which path are we going down now? So I do feel young men, you can say it till the cows come home, as they say, but until someone says, I need help. So I always have a rule of 3. Like if I'll say, Mike, to one of the players, you okay? I'll ask him 3 times. And on the 3rd time, I think I usually get the true and honest answer. But yeah, I'd always say to people, ask 3 times. Not annoying.
Yeah.
It's not annoying.
I think it's a generational thing as well with the whole openness. Because I know definitely with like my parents' generation, I know, other people that have had like granddads and dads and stuff like that, it was that generation where they just didn't talk about stuff, and it was always just head down and get on with it. Whereas I think now it's becoming a bit more realistic in the fact that you can be open about it and doesn't mean you're weak in any way. And the listening element's difficult as well, because I feel like anytime someone asks you something, you always feel like you have to respond, but that's not always the case. You don't always feel like you have to have an answer for everything, because you don't know the answer to everything as well. And I think it's very difficult for people to just not say anything and also admit when they don't know something. Like I don't know is as good an answer as giving a full set of a well-educated response if you're not educated in that area. That makes sense.
Yeah, it 100% makes sense. Like I work with students teaching PE, and they're 14 to 16 year olds. Like there might be times where I say to them, it's listening is a 2-way thing. You listen to me, I'll listen to you, because you never know, I might learn something from you. Like I've worked with students who are young sports people who have said, oh, well, we do this, or I've done this, or I don't know. I mean, man, you learn from someone younger as well of their experiences by listening to them is crazy. And like listening and absorbing, not just listening and then throwing it away. Because people will listen and they're like, nah, gone, information gone. They're actually listening, taking in, thinking about it, analysing it. And if you don't understand, that's nothing wrong. Go and find out, seek more information, go and seek the details, the understanding. Because like we're all learning. If you are the complete person, then there's no point carrying on, is there?
True. I like the Peterson quote as well, where he says, don't compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not who someone else is today.
Yeah.
When I read that the first time, I was like, yeah, that's kind of nail on the head. Because especially with social media now, you get sucked into this kind of comparing yourself with people who are 19, 20, 25, whatever it is, in their 20s, and they're driving around in supercars and making millions. You're like, what have I done wrong? What have I done that meant that I cannot be that? Why am I not a millionaire at this point? Why have I failed so much? But it's not that at all. You're just getting a cherry-picked selection of people who either got lucky or were very good at what they do. So it's hard not to compare yourself. But what's your antidote to that for you?
Well, yeah, it's very hard to compare yourself. Like I lived in a world where you get compared. The selection is all about selection. But those people on Instagram are driving around at 25 and that's that 15 seconds of your life I've seen with you are pre-set up. And have you rented that car? Like, let's be the real, I don't know, I can't remember think of the word right now, but the person who's just negative. I'm like, did you rent that car? Did you?
Pessimist.
Yeah, pessimist, yeah, that's the one. Did you rent that car? Did you actually earn that money? Like, was that handed down money? Like, are you actually happy? Are you actually enjoying your life? Or are you just, I'm on the grind. Like, so just be happy with what you got. Like, I've got a roof over your head. I can do what I like. I enjoy, I want to do what I want to do. I want to be with the people like you want to be with. You want to just go and do what you want to do. Like, social media is beautiful. There's some great people out there who have great learnings and great knowledge, who share and understand amazing things. There's also people who just use it in such a negative, destructive way to boast about life. Where it's like, yeah, social media is social media. it's not sometimes true life, as they say, is it?
Yeah, take it for what it is.
Take it for what it is. Follow who you want to follow, unfollow who you want to unfollow. That's your choice.
Cull the herd, as I said.
Yeah. Don't kill in the street.
Right, Andrew, let's wrap this up. Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. Definitely got some really good takeaways from this. So I'll be looking to beast myself for 60 seconds on an assault bike. And
I'll look forward. I'll be waiting for your score to be.
Hate you.
For your score to be sent to me in my direct message, and so
okay, that's the accountability right there.
I'm calling you out.
Thanks very much. Much appreciated.
No problem. Pleasure.